4 chapters or so of Job, believe it or not, he gets an answer. It's not like us where we go home and we cry because, something bad happened to us and we go, "Oh my God," and we get silence. It's like, Job, this was like a voice from heaven kind of thing, and Job is going, "Oh, wow. Holy cow. I didn't really expect you to answer me." And what God gives him is pretty amazing. And it's a testimony, these verses, and really, we're only going to look at a chapter, but really the rest of the book is a testimony to the bigness, the awesomeness, the radiance, the majesty of God. Listen to this. Then the Lord answered Job out of the storm. Pretty intimidating. "Who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me." That's pretty intimidating. I'm just going to be straight up with you. Anytime anybody says to you, and they're a lot bigger than you, brace yourself like a man because I'm going to ask you some questions, and you're going to answer me. That's pretty serious. Listen to what he says. Listen to what God asked him. "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know who stretched a measuring line across it. On what were its footings?" So he's talking about the earth, making the earth. And he's asking Job, "Where were you when I made the earth, Job?" God created, it's a testimony how big God is that He created every bit of what we see. "On what were its footings set, or who laid its cornerstone? While the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy. Who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness, when I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place." God controls the sea. He controls the dimensions and the extent of where the sea lies and the weather patterns that circulate because of the sea and on the sea and on the land. He controls all that. He has sovereignty over that. I don't know if you know what that word means. Basically, a fancy word, religious word, means control. God controls that. He's sovereign. Verse 12. "Have you ever given orders to the morning?" Job, can you make the sun come up? Can you? Because I can. Watch this. Boom. And there it is. Wow. Holy cow. God made the sun. "Where were you? Have you ever given orders to the morning, or shown the dawn its place, that it might take the earth by the edges, and shake the wicked out of it? The earth takes shape like clay under a seal. Its features stand out like those of a garment. The wicked are denied their light, and their upraised arm is broken. Have you journeyed, Job, to the springs of the sea, or walked in the recesses of the deep places? Have the gates of death been shown to you? Have you seen the gates of the shadow of death? Have you comprehended the vast expanses of the earth? Tell me if you know all this. What is the way to the abode of light?" Do you know where light comes from, Joe? Because I do. I know all the physical properties of light that make light. Do you know what makes it? Tell me if you comprehend. "Where does darkness reside? Can you take them to their places? Do you know the paths to their dwellings?" Verse 21. "Surely you know, for you were already born. You have lived so many years." You can almost hear God being sarcastic with Job. It's a little funny. It's a little funny if Job wasn't in such despair and such pain. But God knows what He's doing. And He loves Job. And He's teaching him something. Because if you read the rest of the story, you know Job is better off after this whole encounter than before. Let's keep going. Verse 21. Or verse 22. "Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, or seen the storehouses of the hail, which I reserve for times of trouble, for days of war and battle? What is the way to the place where the lightning is dispersed? Or the place where the east winds are scattered over the earth? Who cuts a channel to the torrents of rain, and a path for the thunderstorm, to water a land where no man lives, a desert with no one in it, to satisfy a desolate wasteland, to make it sprout with grass? Does the rain have a father? And Joe, by the way, are you it? I don't think so. Who fathers the drops of dew? God is saying that He is in complete and utter control of even the drops of dew on the grass. It's tremendous to me. I mean, we all know the stuff in where Jesus talks about even the numbers, the hairs of your head are numbered. And that's not too hard with me, but for some of you guys, that's like a chore, you know. Let's keep going. Verse 31. Can you bind the beautiful Pleiades? In other words, it's talking about the stars. Do you control the stars in this particular constellation? And really, all the stars. Can you loose the cords of Orion? Can you bring forth the constellations and their seasons, or lead out the bear with its cubs? He's again talking about the stars, the constellation. Do you know the laws of the heavens? Can you set up God's dominion over the earth? Can you raise your voice to the clouds and cover yourself with a flood of water? Do you send the lightning bolts on their way? Do they report to you? Here we are, they say. Who endowed the heart with wisdom, or gave understanding to the mind? Who has wisdom to count the clouds? I wouldn't even thought to do that. I mean, but God knows the number of the clouds. Who can tip over the water jars of the heavens? When the dust becomes hard and the clods of earth stick together, do you hunt for the prey for the lioness and satisfy the hunt? And he keeps going. He keeps going. Just keeps going on and on for like 4 more chapters. Is your view of God, your view of who we're worshiping, your view of who we come into this place to sing to, expanded just a little bit? Has it gotten a little bit bigger? Because God, there are verses, we could go to any number of other verses that talk about how big and awesome and mighty and creative and radiant and majestic God is. Psalms is replete over and over again with descriptions of the majesty of God. Genesis and its description of God's creative force to bring all of this about is absolutely unbelievable. You see, worship, here's my deal. When you get a big view of God, then worship is kind of natural. Of course, you're going to give that worth to God with your words, with your voice. Let's go a little bit different direction. Go to Psalm 91 now. Flip on over to Psalm 91. Psalm 91, because we're going to talk about maybe you guys getting a bigger view of God and how that works. Because it's not really, I'll be honest with you, it's not enough for me to stand up here and talk for 10 minutes about how big and awesome and mighty and great and tremendous God is. It's not enough for me to do that and you walk out here going, oh wow, cool, God's big. You know, that's not going to get it done. But Psalm 91 gives us a glimpse maybe of how that can happen, of how you can expand your view of God so that your view of God is bigger so it will affect your worship. Check this out. I haven't turned there yet. Sorry. I'm a little behind.